Okay, I am ready to do some readings today. My name is Will, and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, it's a fairly new channel, just a couple of months old, and I'm going to do some free readings today. Human, hello, welcome. Let me just get a pinned message in the chat here. I'm streaming earlier today than I usually do. All right, I'm going to burn some Palo Santo, get some smoke going, shuffle my cards. Hope you're all doing well today. Sunday morning. At least that's what it is where I am. End of the weekend. Maybe folks are getting ready to go back to work tomorrow, or maybe you've been working all weekend anyways and it makes no difference. Maybe you're spending time with your loved ones today. I'm getting towards the end of this Palo Santo stick, but I have another one. I have had a good weekend, thanks. I've mostly spent it at home. I'm getting ready to do some travel, go visit some family this summer, and so I've been packing and preparing for that. It does mean that I probably won't be live streaming or posting quite as often. I still plan to do it when I'm able to, but these next weeks are going to be about family mostly for me, and so I will be visiting family and staying with family and seeing them, and I'm very excited about all of that because I don't live near my family, and so I only get to see them when I'm able to get away and visit. Let me give these a shuffle here. And so I pulled out my trusty Conver Bendove Tarot de Marseille deck. I've also got some other decks sitting at the side here that I may use depending on the questions that come up. And I feel like this deck is good for pretty much anything. But I have a lot of decks, like most tarot readers and tarot enthusiasts. I probably buy too many of them, and I can't really help myself. And so maybe I'll use some of the other ones if I feel called to do so. All right, so let me check the live chat here and start a list. All right, so Anne's Human, I will put you on my list. And everyone check the pinned message at the top and check the video description. I've got some information there about how I'd like to run things today. My plan is I'm probably going to go for just a few hours reading today. If you'd like a reading, please type just one time in all caps, please add me to the list. And that will make it easier so that when I'm scrolling up and down through the chat, I can easily find who's asked for a reading. And then I'll go in first come, first serve basis. So whoever's first on the list, I'll go first with you and then on the way down. And then if you're not here when I call your name, I'll skip over you. If I have time, I might be able to go back to you. But you'll have to, you'll have to be present and be patient because, it's free readings. And so first come, first served. And if you have to take off, I get it. That's fine. No hard feelings. But it does mean I might not be able to get to you today. We'll see how things go. So, all right. So I see Anne's Human. Your question is already up here. So let's start with you. And you've asked for whatever's coming towards you this month. And so for that kind of question, I'm going to use a different deck. Today I'm going to do the Trinity Tarot, and I'd already given the Trinity Tarot a good shuffle prior to starting the recording, so I'll just shuffle it a little bit more here. But let's do a month ahead June reading for Anne's Human and see what is coming up for them. Hey, B. Hey, Sapsadam. Hey, Satella. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So for a general month ahead reading, I like to do a 9-card spread. I will lay out 9 cards face down. We'll flip them over one at a time and then read them in there's a certain set of configurations or structures or patterns that I use to read them. And the center card will tell us the main issue, the corners give us a theme, and so on from there. So we've got justice, finding balance, making a decision perhaps. 2 of Swords, that makes me think again, there's a decision coming up. Maybe you're very focused on trying to choose one thing or another, or maybe you're not sure what the choice should be. 4 of Cups is emotional stability, though it can also mean apathy or not noticing something that's right there in front of your face. The Lovers, which again can be choice. All 3 of these cards can be about choice or a decision. Could also be a relationship with the Lovers. The center of the spread is another 4. It's a 4 of Swords this time. And there I would think maybe of resting, stability of mind, maybe meditation, focus. So before I even flip the other cards, I'm sort of getting the sense that this month is going to be about centering and thinking and focusing, because there's some kind of decision or choice that you need to be making. Ace of Swords, well, that suggests that the decision is made, right? 2 of Swords is like this one or that one. Ace of Swords is like you picked something. Down in the bottom row, 10 Wands. Maybe you're a little overwhelmed. A burden, burning out. Temperance, there we go again with finding balance. Temperance and justice are about balancing things. And the 2 of Pentacles, wow. So look at how many 2s and 4s we have. It's all even numbers except for the Ace of Swords, right? It's all things like weighing things, balancing things, or choosing. And then even the 4s are less about choice and more about sort of keeping things the same. But, you know, if we think of 2 2s, that's 4. We've got 2 of Pentacles down here, but there isn't one Ace of Swords in the right-hand column that suggests like you're gonna choose something, right? So let's look first at the central card, because this will tell us the sort of main issue coming up for you, and it's the 4 of Swords. So this might be a month where you're withdrawing a little bit from others. It could mean that you are trying to rest, right? That maybe you've been through some tough times. If we think about the card that would come before this, it'd be the 3 of Swords. We can sometimes associate that with heartbreak depending on the deck and the context. So maybe you've had a trying time lately and you're working on withdrawing a bit to recover from that, heal from that, rest from that, so that then you can go on and have a breakthrough in the future. Let me ask you so that or maybe it's not an ask, it's a confirm. I'm pretty sure you're single right now, and human. Is that right? And yes. Okay, great. So currently single. So, there are no court cards at all here in this spread. And so when I see the lovers, and I'm just picking up on that because it's one of the cards that stands out a bit, right? When I see the lovers, it could mean a new relationship. I would often want to see other cards that sort of back that up or corroborate it, like maybe at least one court card that stands in for someone that could be that new love interest, or like a 2 of Cups or maybe a 10 of Cups or something like that. And those cards aren't showing up. And so I'm not sure that this is necessarily about starting a new relationship. But let's read the corner cards and see what we get from that. So first of all, we've got Justice up here in the top left. And so here I would think about trying to find balance in your life, right? Like weighing your different options. And it may have to do with a relationship, but honestly, it could be just about anything. Because if I'm looking at the other suits that show up, we have all of the suits, right? And so we've got cups, we've got pentacles, we've got wands, we've got plenty of swords here as well. And so it might be that it's not about any one area of your life, but it's more about finding a balance in all the different areas of your life together, right? So like if you've been focused on one thing, maybe the spread is giving you a sort of nudge to say in this upcoming month, try to put all of that in balance. Like if you've been focusing on work, now is the time to also focus on relationships, right? If you've been focusing on practical things, now is also the time to focus on intellectual things or something like that, right? With the 4 of Cups, we get the sense that while you might have a kind of emotional or relationship stability right now, you might also be a little bit bored, right? And or not seeing an opportunity that is right there in front of you. If we think of these 3 cups that are kind of upside down, it's like, yeah, those are there. You've drunk those. You're done with those. But maybe you don't see this 4th one that is sort of floating down from the heavens above and is maybe not as easy for you to notice. Like this can be the card that says there is someone who could be an important relationship to you, for example, right in front of your face, like someone you already know probably, or if you don't know them, they're like in your normal everyday kind of environment, but you don't see them that way, right? Even though they might be a good match for you, right? That's one meaning that we could take from the 4 of Cups. With the 2 of Pentacles, we get the idea of, again, balancing. So many of the cards today are about finding a balance. So here we would think probably about money, but it's not always money. It could also be anything to do with material life. It could be about organizing your home space or your workspace. It could be about if you're working too much, that you're also finding time to go out with friends. And if you're going out with friends too much, then you're finding time to do work, that kind of thing, right? Work hard, play hard is another idea that I get from 2 of Pentacles. And then way back here, we get the 10 of Wands. And this, I think, is not balanced. 10 of Wands is not balanced. 10 of Wands is there's too much of something, and it's whatever is fiery in your life. And so it could be that you're working too much. I often go to career with wands. And so if you've been putting a lot of yourself into some passion project or career, you might be on the verge of burning out and it's too much for you and you're burdened and carrying too much and you need to prioritize or you need a break. And seeing that on the left side of the spread is good because it makes me think that there's a rest that you'll be able to take coming up, especially with this Four of Swords as the central card. So overall, the sense that I get, the sort of theme that I get is that this upcoming month is going to be about taking a rest, finding balance in your life, maybe noticing there's something here in front of you that you didn't notice before that could be fulfilling or important, and lessening whatever is burdening you, right? At least for the duration of the month, because we put a time limit on here that it would be 1 month. So, we don't know if these 10 of Wands are going to pop back up again in July, for example. But for June, because they're on the left, I would think they seem to go away, right? We don't have an increase of batons. In fact, there are no more batons coming up further to the right side of the spread. So I'm going to read the columns in just a second, but let me check the chat real quick and see what we've got. Okay, so Sapsadam, I'm going to add you. You didn't do all caps, but that's okay. I see it. So Sapsadam. And then B, I've got you. I will add you to the list. Hermit's Lantern, hi. I'm adding you to the list. Are we twins? I created my channel name because I did a reading. I asked the cards, what should I call my channel? And the Hermit came up and I was like, oh, the Hermit's holding a lantern. To me, it looked like a lantern. I mean, I think other people call it other things, but Ari, I'm adding you. Ari. Okay. Drift King, I'll add you. All right. So let's take a look at the columns here. I see that Enshuman has said office vacations are on the 1st to the 20th of June. So this card coming up at the center, if you've got a vacation from work coming up, you get to rest, you get to withdraw a little bit, recharge. That makes perfect sense with this Four of Swords in the center of your spread today. And I think a lot of what's coming up for you is going to be like finding balance, recharging, and all of that kind of stuff. So let's look at the columns here. On the left, which would be towards the beginning of the month, and then the middle is later, and then the right column is towards the end of the month. With Justice and the Lovers, I think about making a very slow, reasoned, well thought out decision. The Lovers corresponds to Gemini, right, which is an air sign, and then Swords are air. And so this is really, I think, about using the mind to make a choice about something. It's possible. I wouldn't say it's impossible. It is possible that there's something here about starting a new relationship, but I don't know that I see. Maybe with the Four of Cups, there's something here about finally by the end of the month realizing that there's somebody you already know that might be a love interest and you hadn't seen them that way before. that is a possible reading and that it just is a very, very slow realization. I think justice is a very slow card. Think about how slow the wheels of justice turn, right? It's about using your mind and figuring things out and weighing all the evidence, and it takes a long time for all that to happen. But, this could have to do with some other kind of decision, maybe a work decision, because we've got the 10 of Wands here. It sounds like if you're in a situation where you have a career where you can have a nice long break in the summer like that, that sounds pretty satisfying, right? And so, um, I wonder, like, my intuition is telling me that you're probably pretty happy with that job or career situation. But maybe there's still something you need to choose about it, right? Like maybe there's not enough money. That would be an option with the 2 of Pentacles. 2 Pentacles aren't very many, right? If you only have 2 coins, maybe you're having to kind of juggle money. And so there might be some choices, some difficult choices that need to be made. But I think that not having the burden of all of this work is going to be really good for you. Whether it comes back again is a different question, but at least this break for a big portion of the month will be nice. With the 2 of Swords up here and the 4, putting those together, I just think of being incredibly focused, like withdrawing, being on your own, being in your head, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's like if you've been going, working with all of these wands that are stressing you out, then you get a chance to sort of rest, withdraw, and maybe clear your head a little bit and figure out like what the next step is going to be for you. With Temperance, I think, in addition to balance, I think of what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. If you think of Temperance as like tempering steel, the way that if you heat it and cool it and heat it and cool it rapidly, it gets stronger and stronger because it becomes more flexible and less brittle over time. And that, along with all of these swords, I'm just thinking of like, maybe you've been in a heating up period with the 10 of Wands, and now you're approaching the sort of cool down period, right? Swords I think of as a very cold or cool suit. If you think of the way that like metal feels when it's just like sitting alone in a room, it gets very cold, right? So maybe you've been heating up and now you're cooling off, and that process of heating, cooling is tempering you, making you stronger, right? So like maybe you come back from this rest period feeling stronger than you ever did before. Here with the cards in the right-hand column, I've got the 4 of Cups up top, which means a kind of stability, but also maybe not noticing something in front of your face. And the Ace of Swords, this is about a new idea, using your sharp mind, making a decision, victory, I think of, like going back into battle, like picking up the sword again, right? Here with the 4 of Swords, you've laid your sword down, right? And then with the Ace of Swords, you're picking it back up again. And you're saying, okay, I've had my rest, and now I'm ready to go and fight again. And maybe it's that hopefully, like the best outcome I can think of here would be that after having this little break, you go back to your job with a renewed sense of how to find balance in your everyday life. And I can think of lots of little examples of this. Like, for example, maybe over the break, you do like meal prepping, right? And I don't know, make a bunch of breakfast burritos and freeze them. And so that when you come back, you've saved some money, right? And it's a little easier juggling money around. and you're able to have more time for having fun, at least for a period of time, right? While you're also back into working your job again, you know? That would just be one little example. I'm sure you can think of others that might be more applicable to your own personal context and situation. So it seems like you've got a nice little break here. And the one thing that I would, it's not, I'm not, I wouldn't caution you, but I would just say, like, keep your eyes open. If you are interested in a relationship, okay, keep your eyes open for someone who might already be right there in front of you, who you don't think of in that way necessarily. Like, I don't know, maybe there's someone at the coffee shop you go to and you don't know their name, you don't have a relationship with them, but you see them regularly. And maybe one day you say hello, right? That kind of thing. We're like, they're right there, but they're just like not on your radar, if that makes any kind of sense. Okay, let me check the chat again and see where we're at with that. And let me ask Anshuman, what if this makes sense, if it resonates, if it sounds, or like if you have any questions about any of the particular cards up or anything I've said. I'd love to clarify anything or go into a little more detail. And Chelsea, I will add you to my list. If we've got anybody new here, welcome. My name is Will. I'm doing some free tarot readings. And if you're interested, check the pinned chat message or the video description so you'll know how I do things. Okay, so you're welcome, Anshuman. And it sounds like you want to know more about the relationship part. So I would kind of think you're not an introvert. Okay. So Anshuman says, in front of my eyes, one, I don't talk to people. I ain't introvert. So you don't like talk to people you don't know, but you also wouldn't say that you're an introvert. So you're sort of like balanced that way. I mean, when we threw the cards down on the table, we just asked, like, what's coming up in June? And the two cards that, to my perspective, suggest the possibility of a relationship would be the Lovers and maybe the Four of Cups. But with the Four of Cups, it's less about the beginning of a relationship. If I saw an Ace or a Two of Cups or even a 3, emotional growth, then I might think of a friendship that could maybe turn into something more. With the Four of Cups, it's more like whenever I see fours, I think of things continuing as they have been, right? Because they're about stability, they're about structure, they're about, think about the strength of a square structure, right? It's like a foundation, right? It's something that's laid first. Maybe you build something on it later, but the fours are about establishing something that's solid as opposed to starting something new or developing something that already exists. That would be a different number. And so I think this month might be more about working on yourself, preparing yourself, being the best you can be, so that maybe in a future month, the opportunity for a relationship could arise. Because, the Four of Cups can also be just about meditating or focusing or resting, much like the Four of Swords, except it would be resting in more of an emotional way instead of an intellectual, like in the mind kind of way. And so my hunch here is more about the idea that it's less about starting a new relationship and more about getting yourself to be in the best possible headspace and mind space and heart space so that when that kind of opportunity comes along for you in the future, you'll be ready to accept it. That kind of thing. Okay, so welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will. I'm doing some free tarot readings today. Check the pinned chat message or the description of the video for more information. And let me see who's next on my list. We've got Sepsadum, if you are here. All right, so I'm going to clean these cards up for Anne's Human. I hope that you enjoy your rest, your break, Anne's Human. That sounds awesome. All right, Sepsadum, and if you'd like to... Oh, you've already posted your question. I just saw it. My question is easy today. How's going my birthday? I wonder it because tomorrow's my birthday. When you start the reading, I will come 2 minutes later. Okay, welcome. And you want to know how your birthday's going to go. Well, first of all, happy birthday. You've got your birthday coming up tomorrow. So how is your birthday day going to go? Let's do 3 cards from the Tarot de Marseille as a answer to that. How is your birthday going to go? Happy birthday. So that means you're a Gemini. My mother was a Gemini. All right, Sepsadum's birthday tomorrow. Let's see what we get. Ooh, the Star. Optimism, hope, healing, if there's any healing to be done. A big bright light in the sky pointing you towards the upcoming year. And maybe pouring out some drinks with friends. Ooh, the Knight of Cups. You're the Star. So are you single or are you in a relationship? I ask because this Knight of Cups, who's very romantic, seems to be galloping towards you or riding up towards you. And I wonder, you know, we could read that literally as there's a love interest coming to you. Or we could read it more figuratively, more like there's a romance entering into your life, a feeling of romance, as opposed to it being embodied in a specific person. And behind him is the Magician. So Sepsadum has a flirt, like a crush, but they haven't spoken in a month. So like I'm looking at this and I notice the way that all of the figures on the cards are looking to the left. See that? Everybody's looking to the left, and Sepsadum is here as the Star who's looking leftward and down, I think. But then we've got our Knight of Cups looking at her. And then we've got the Magician, I think, also looking at her. If you draw a line, a diagonal line from the Magician's eyes, they're like, the Magician's not looking at the Knight. The Magician, I think, is looking past the Knight and towards her. And so, you know, I'm thinking at your birthday, people are going to be looking at you. Maybe that's obvious because it's your birthday, right? So whatever you're doing to celebrate, of course, people will be looking at you. You'll be the star of the party. right? I mean, there could certainly be someone who has romantic ideas for you, like a crush on you, who is going to be there, and who you might run into or cross. And it would be possible too that, especially in the context of today, that they're not necessarily physically present, but like if they were to message you online or something like that, or like text you or get in your DMs or something like that, that would be possible. And then there's another person, the magician, who's looking at you too. And so with the magician, I think about someone who's powerful, someone who can make things happen in the world, but also someone who can be a little bit tricky, right? And so if these are different people, you might have a romantic person and a tricky person, right? The cards could also be saying that the romantic person is also a little bit tricky, right? Maybe these two are merged into a single other person. And so when you are experiencing the day tomorrow, I would sort of ask you to think in your head, like, are these two figures separate? Can you identify, like, that's the tricky one, right? That's the one who's maybe a lot of fun and doing lots of stuff, but who I don't 100% feel like I could trust. And then the other one is like very emotionally available and connected and might seem romantic and is saying complimentary things, I would imagine. Can also be shy. The Knight of Cups can be shy. They avoid conflict. So they might be the kind of person to send very, very subtle signals, right? Like instead of coming up to you and saying something, they might sort of sit way at the other side of the room on their own and just look at you out of the corner of their eye from time to time because they're nervous or anxious or afraid of rejection or something like that. That can happen with the Knight of Cups too. So overall, I'd say for your birthday coming up, you're going to be the star. People are going to be looking at you, paying attention to you. I would think it's a really good time. Some emotional movement would be possible, right? Like feeling lots of emotions coming up. And, I think of this card too as entertainment, right? The magician originally, especially in the Tarot de Marseille, is like a street performer, right? So they're entertaining. They're fun to watch. They get people excited, but they can also be tricky, right? Like what's he hiding under the table or what's he got up his sleeve? That kind of stuff we could think about. So all good things. I don't see any reason for apprehension. You've got no swords here. You've got no tower. You've got no death. You've got no devil. I think, not that those cards are always bad. We always have to read them in context. The devil could be a lot of fun on a birthday party, right? As long as he doesn't stick around for too long. But this looks to me like it would be a fun, optimistic, hopeful, emotionally moving, and entertaining birthday, maybe with a love interest. And the other thing I guess I would note, which I started to say and then got sidetracked, was with everybody looking to the left, they're not just looking at you, but they're all looking at the past, right? So probably a lot of like remembering what happened in the last year and reminiscing about the good times that you've had or how you've progressed or how you've changed or what's happened since your previous birthday, right? All right. So you're very welcome. Yes, I think it'll be a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy it. Happy birthday. These are wonderful cards to see for a birthday party. And I hope that it's a great one. All right. So let me check the chat and my list and see where we're at. I think I have B next. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will. I'm doing some free tarot readings. Check the pinned chat message or the video description for more info. All right. Titha, bonjour. And Benita, I'm adding you to the list. I started asking folks to use all caps to just one-time request being added to the list, because then I can quickly scroll through all the messages in the chat and like pick out fairly quickly and more accurately who wants to be added, just because I'm doing this all on my own. And, you know, I know that some people who've been doing this longer than I have will have like one person who's managing the chat and then someone else is reading the cards, but I'm doing all that myself. And so it speeds things up a little bit when I can skim through the chat and just look for that all caps message. So I appreciate you helping me out with that. Excuse me. All right, and so B's asking for a what's coming in June spread. So I'm going to switch to my Trinity Tarot. I think that's best for a month spread. And we'll do a 9-card reading. Sure, B. I'm on the west coast of the United States, so Pacific time. I think I can never remember if we're in daylight savings time or not. But like if you check, I'm not in LA, but if you check LA time, LA time zone. Eight hours behind you, so then you must be in like Western Europe, maybe. England, cool. I'm actually going to be spending just a few days in England in July. Are there any good B? Can I ask? Are there any good tarot shops in London that I should know about? All right, I'm going to do a month ahead reading for B. We'll do a 9-card portrait spread. Yeah, if you hear of any good ones, B, let me know. I'll probably just, you know, go online and look at reviews and stuff, but and I won't be able to buy too much, you know, because traveling, there's only so much luggage space, but that would be fun. I don't know what the tarot scene, I imagine in a city like London, it's huge because it's just such a big city, but. All right, month ahead of June for B. What to expect, what to focus on, what's coming for B in the month ahead. All right, let's flip these over and see what we've got. Two of Wands. Making plans. Keeper of Cups, that's the Queen of Cups. That's probably you. Hey, here's the Four of Cups again, in the same position as N-Humans spread. Interesting when that happens. I shuffled very, very extensively. Five of Wands. That can mean overcoming something, competing, sometimes unnecessary conflict. Apprentice of Pentacles. So we've got at least two court cards here, and this would be the Page of Pentacles at the center of the spread. So you know, I'm inclined to think that you're the Queen of Cups, but you know, with the way the court cards go, sometimes they represent different people in our lives. Other times they just represent different aspects of our own personality, right? So these could sort of both be representing you. But if there's anyone in your life who is young, or like a child or a niece or a nephew or something like that, or just immature, right? Like someone who's hesitant, uncertain about themselves, has young qualities, whether they're actually young or not. This can even represent like an elderly person who is dependent on others, right? Sometimes the pages can represent that kind of situation too. So we'll have to get more into that. Oh, and another one, Apprentice of Swords. 2, 3, okay. Two of Swords. Eight of Swords. Crown of Pentacles. So we've got a lot of court cards here. And so we'll have to sort of figure out when they're representing you or an aspect of yourself and when they're representing other people around you. And they can sometimes do both, right? So I'll try to read them sort of in different modes as we go through. So let's start in the center with the Apprentice of Pentacles. And this could be one of your friends. You say most of the people that you date and your friends are younger than you. So one of these apprentice people absolutely could be a friend or a potential love interest. And as I said, it could also represent an aspect of your own personality. So sort of go with what first comes to mind as I'm explaining. So Apprentice of Pentacles, this is someone who's sort of planting the seed for something that they hope will grow up into a big, beautiful tree, right? Metaphorically speaking, or actually speaking, you know, if they happen to be like a gardener or something like that. Usually is someone who enjoys the outdoors, enjoys nature, maybe likes hiking, that kind of thing, going to parks, things like that. But someone who's like really into growing something, but who's at the beginning of it. Right. So maybe at the most there's a little sprout coming up, but I really think of this as someone who's planting a seed, an actual or metaphorical seed. It could even be like a student who's like planting the seed of knowledge, and they have to put in the hard work every day to sort of make that metaphorical tree of knowledge grow for themselves. And so that could be something that you are doing and that you're focusing on this month, or this could be some other person in your life who's like going to be central to the month. Okay. And B says, it's probably me planting a seed for a better life because they're in the park right now, right? So yes, you're outdoors, you're in nature, right? And you're planting the seed for a better life. Great. I love that. So I suspect that when we get to the other court cards, we'll have to figure those out too. So this month is about planting that seed, right? Which means you're going to have to wait for the payoff. It's not going to grow right away, but getting that seed in the ground, watering it, fertilizing it, make sure that it's in a safe space, that no birds come along to like eat it up or anything like that, right? So if we look at the corners, we'll get a theme for the month. Two of Wands, that's planning. And so that makes sense with planting the seed for a better life. Two of Wands is figuring out what you're going to be doing in the future. And so I suspect you're going to have a lot of that this month. This month, I think, is going to be mostly about getting ready for something big that will come up later, right? So with the Two of Wands, we could think about looking at the world. There's this image of a globe here, right? Looking at what you can do in the world and getting ready to do it, mapping it out, so to speak, but not necessarily taking the first big step towards it, right? So whether that's a relationship or a new job or a degree or starting a business or whatever it might be, I think this month is about getting your metaphorical ducks in a row in order to make that endeavor as successful as possible in the future. With the Four of Cups, we could think about emotional stability, as I said earlier, for Ends Humans reading. And maybe the idea that there's something there you're not seeing that could be really good for you, and that's kind of right in front of your face, but you aren't noticing it yet. Maybe because it's just in a context that's not recognizable to you, or because maybe it's off to the side and you sort of can't get it centered in your vision. But I wonder who this Crown of Pentacles is. This would be, because I wonder if it's related to the Four of Cups. Crown of Pentacles, this would be a King of Pentacles in another deck. So this is someone who's like got a manager kind of personality, maybe a Taurus. You can see the horns, the bull horns up here. Someone who's materially probably pretty comfortable. Could be a boss at work. I did say manager, right? So could be like a boss at work. Someone who's like in charge in their life. And it could be a father figure. Sometimes the kings show up as father figures. Someone who probably has money. Or if it's not actual money that they have, then they have some other material resource in abundance. Like they've got a lot of time to invest in other people. They've got a lot of energy to invest in other people, right? Like to spend time with, things like that. And so I wonder who this king could be, because later we've got a queen, a keeper. In this deck, it's the crown and the keeper. And so we'd have to figure it out. And so, I mean, it could be you. It could be you turning into a Crown of Pentacles, right? From an apprentice, a page who's planting a seed. And, you know, I said at the beginning, we have to wait for the seed to grow, but maybe with the crown, maybe it's growing faster than we thought, right? Like you're planting it and the very same month, it's turning into something, right? Like, I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind would be like taking on a new project at work and then you get a bonus in your paycheck, right? But it would have to come pretty quickly, I would think, right? With the Two of Swords as the last corner card, we've got you being very focused, making decisions, maybe meditating, concentrating. This can refer to an argument. And I don't usually think of it as an argument, but when it's near some other cards like the Five of Wands, I do sometimes think of it like maybe having a little bit of some friction with someone else. So if there's someone else you can think of who maybe you're having a little bit of friction with right now, or even just competing with, I mean, that sort of takes us into reading this first column, which would be you're making plans, but you're feeling some friction, or maybe even having an argument with somebody else, competing with them, or just like unnecessary conflict, like you're all sort of beating sticks together. Um, you can't stand your boss, so maybe it's conflict with your boss. It could be this sort of friction, annoyances, conflict kind of stuff that's happening with the boss. And so maybe you're making plans about how to get around that or get away from it. Like, how could you, I don't know, transfer to a different department or branch, or find a new job altogether if that's even an option. Um, yeah. So with the middle column, I would think that even though what you're doing is trying to plant seeds for growth for a better life, there's a part of your life that's already really good, I would think, and that would be in your emotional, empathic, intuitive side. The Keeper of Cups here, she's patient, she's understanding, she understands her own feelings, and she's really good at understanding other people's feelings as well. And she's very receptive to other people's feelings, which can be a great thing. She also, if she hasn't already figured this out or learned this, knowing that she can put a lid on her cup is really important. In this illustration and in many other decks, she is the court card of cups that has a closure, a lid on the cup, because she knows that if she is too open and too receptive to other people's feelings, it can totally overwhelm her. It can like flood her emotions, and it's too much. So this lid is very, very, very important. Knowing that she, if she hasn't already, learned to be able to turn off your emotional receptivity when it's in your own best interests. And then, of course, how to turn it back on again. That flexibility to turning it on, turning it off is super, super, super important. And until that flexibility is mastered and understood, it can be a problem, right, for a Keeper of Cups kind of person. So way down here with the Eight of Swords, there might be a little bit of feeling stuck. And I'm leaning in more to thinking that this Crown of Pentacles is your boss if you don't like them and have conflicts with them. Because if we read the bottom row, I'm going a little bit out of order now, but I think it makes sense. Two of Swords would be like a little discussion, argument, a little conflict. Think of two people sort of clashing swords, right? Eight of Swords, whoa, that escalated, right? From 2 to 8, that's a pretty fast increase. And so here it's like, well, I can't get away from the swords. They're all around me. What can I do? And I sort of think like, who's responsible for that? Crown of Pentacles. The boss is kind of responsible for that. And so I get the sense that maybe this planting of a seed for a better life, part of that might involve figuring out a way where you can either endure in a better way this conflict or get away from it, depending on what options are available to you, right? In the rightmost column, we've got that Four of Cups popping up again. Apprentice of Swords. So this can be a student, and the way they've drawn the card here with the books and the sword is like a pen writing, it makes me think student. So it could be something like, you know, going back to school or thinking about that. But I also, with the Apprentice of Swords, this is someone who's gathering information, right? This is someone who is kind of a detective in a way. They're researching, they're figuring things out. They're not necessarily like they've got their sword, but they're not ready to strike with it so much as they are doing research around the issue, research around the problem, gathering all the information so that they're the most, the best possible informed that they could be, so that when it's time to strike, they strike at the right time and in the right way and in the right place, right? And so this almost makes me think that you're like maybe gathering information on your boss to figure out either how you could get him or her off your back, or that you could like gather information about some other position, either in the same company or business or transferring to another one, but like just getting more information in order to prepare yourself to do something about this conflict and problem. That's what I think of with the Apprentice of Swords here. So overall, I think this is a month coming up for you where you are plotting things out for the future in a emotional sense. You're stable, you're grounded, you're solid. I think it's the career stuff and the conflict stuff that is causing you trouble. But I think you're dealing with it and really you are and will be dealing with it in really good ways, like healthy ways, going forward. So let me check the chat and see what we've got there. All right. B, you're very, very welcome. I don't think there's... I think this month is about preparing for something new, right? The Two of Wands, making plans, the Apprentice of Pentacles, planting a seed, the Apprentice of Swords, gathering information. The Keeper of Cups is having patience. She's very patient. The Queens can be very patient and understanding. Not always, but when I see them like next to a Two of Wands and a Four of Cups, I think planning, keeping an equilibrium, preparing for the future. And I guess the one other thing maybe I'd add is when we read the cards in rows, I would read the top row is what you know, the middle row is what you're doing, turning thought into action, and the bottom row is maybe what you're not totally as aware of. And so two of the three swords cards in the spread are in the bottom row, and they're there with the Crown of Pentacles. And it makes me think like maybe it's not 100% clear how much the conflict with your boss is influencing you right now. That would be one little thing to think about, right? That the Two of Swords, Eight of Swords situation with the Crown of Pentacles being on the bottom row is like, it's kind of the foundation of the situation, but not always something that is right up in our thoughts, right? So just something to consider. And no, you do not eat the fruit the same day you plant the seed. This little guy has got to grow. That's right. Exactly. Okay, so next on the list, I have Hermit's Lantern. If you are here, my YouTube twin, Hermit's Lantern, welcome, welcome. Let me just pick these up. I love these cards too. I'll tell you, this deck that I use for most of my YouTube readings, it's called the Conver Bendov or CBD Tarot de Marseille. And it's an inexpensive deck that I've put tape over some of the potentially objectionable images. I can't find one right now. but I wanted to do this with one of my inexpensive decks so that I could read with it on YouTube and still like not violate terms of service or anything like that. Gosh, I can't find any of the, oh, well, there's a little tape that I put on, right? Yeah, it's a really good deck, inexpensive and fairly easy to find. I think you can get it for 15 or 20 bucks. And it's great. It's a great little deck. Yeah. Okay, so let me see, Hermit's Lantern. If you already posted a question, I'll scroll up and find it. Otherwise, go ahead and... Okay, basic reading, or if you need a question, what's coming in soon? Okay, cool. So you liked the French deck, the Marseille deck, so I think I'm going to go ahead and use it. And so what I'll do is I'll pull 3 cards. It's too big to do a 9-card spread. I can't fit them all in the camera without overlapping. So I'm going to do 3 cards, but we can pull additional cards for clarification or to ask like a follow-up question if the initial answer is not totally clear. So let's see. What's coming up for Hermit's Lantern? And I'll tell you, Hermit's Lantern, I don't know if you're familiar, but if you haven't looked at, there's a website called artisantarot.com. And if you're familiar with them or want to check them out, they have the most amazing historical reproductions of old decks, old tarot decks. And I've got maybe 3 of them. I don't read with them on YouTube because I don't want to put tape on them to cover up any objectionable images, but they shuffle like an absolute dream. They are more expensive, but like my own personal readings, I use the Conver deck, the Nicholas Conver deck from them, and I love it. The cards shuffle like butter. I think I've got a review, like an unboxing video of some of those decks. I don't know if they've already been published because I've been scheduling videos in advance, but if they're not already published, they will be in the upcoming days or weeks. So what's coming up for Hermit's Lantern? Let's pull 3 cards and see what we get. And welcome to anyone who might be joining. My name is Will. I'm doing some free tarot readings. Please consider subscribing if you want to help me grow the channel. And if you're interested in a free reading, check out the video description or the pinned message. All right, here we go. Let's pull 3 cards for my YouTube twin, Hermit's Lantern. All right, 7 swords. So here I think about strategy, strategizing, can be making plans, but it's sort of the kind of plans that you maybe don't want other people totally to know about. This also I think of as the card of someone who's doing something and other people don't understand them. Honestly, if you read tarot, then this can be like other people looking at you like, what is that person doing with those cards? Like, this is the card for me of sometimes of people looking at you like you're kind of a weirdo, but you're awfully happy about it, right? 10 cups. That's great. We love to see that. It's fulfillment. It's happiness. You know, that rainbows in the sky and you feel good about it. It doesn't bother you that maybe there's some people who don't get you. You know, this card can also mean lies or deception. So I guess if we're doing a future reading for what's coming up, then that would be something to keep an eye open for. But when I see it next to the 10 of cups, like if someone's trying to deceive you, it's not going to work very well because you're still going to be pretty happy. Let's see what the third card is. 6 of wands, that's victory, collaboration, people following you literally or metaphorically or on social media. So, I know that you do, well, I think do YouTube, right? If you've Hermit's Lantern, so maybe you're doing a YouTube channel. Um, I would think like maybe standing out as being unique on the one hand, and some people aren't going to get it. And they're going to like why is that happening? Why are they doing that? But you're really happy about it and it's fulfilling to you, right? Like 10 cups, that's you've got all the cups. Like you've got 9 stacked up and this one's so full it like fell over, right? And then here 6 of wands, going forward into victory. It can be working with others. I think of like you're carrying 3 rods and they're carrying 3 rods, somebody else. And so it could be collaborating with somebody else. But I also think about you are doing something that gets publicly recognized, right? Whether it's online or at work or whatever it might be. It's about someone else or some other group of people seeing you doing something and being like, cool, I want to see more of that, right? And so it's sort of like these 2 cards are sort of at odds with one another, the 7 of swords and the 6 of wands, because the 7 of swords is about you having to sort of do something quietly so that other people don't see it, because if they do see it, they're going to think it's weird and they don't get you. But maybe you don't care because it's next to the 10 of cups. And there's another group of people, maybe a smaller group because it's a 6 instead of a 7, a smaller group of people who see you doing the exact same thing, being yourself in public, like usually today that would mean online, but just any kind of place where other people would see you. And they're like, oh, wow, actually, that's awesome. Right. And I don't know why these people don't understand that it's awesome. Right. So, Hermit Slandred says on Facebook right now and sharing. Yeah, I mean, it could be that, right? I think especially with wands are fire. And so with fire, I think of electricity and then digital stuff and like social media. And so this can be the card of people like following you on social media, publicly recognizing you. And today, public usually means on the internet, right? Social media, as opposed to like in the town square, like it might have meant, 100 or 200 years ago, right? So what's coming up for you is I think you're going to do more of figuring out who you are and letting that go from the inside of yourself to the outside of yourself. And some people aren't going to get it. And that's fine. Let them not get you. That's totally fine. You can be happy with who you are and where you are and what you're doing, because there's a smaller group of people who are going to get you. And those are the ones that you should pay attention to and embrace and look for validation in and all of that good stuff. Okay, let me look at my chat. Okay, and we didn't pull the hermit for the 2 hermits. Nope, it was a crime, as B says. Miss Ashley, I will add you to the list. And Ari, I already have you. In fact, Ari, you would be next. As soon as I'm done with the current reading, Ari is next. Yeah, stay a weirdo. 100%. When I see Seven of Swords, I think stay a weirdo, right? Like in the Rider-Waite-Smith version of this card, what you see is there's this figure in the night sort of stealing a bunch of swords. I think it's 5 of the 7 swords and walking off away from them. And there's some figures way off in the background, like who don't see that their swords are being stolen. And so they don't get why that's happening. And so some people would say it's deception or lies or somebody doing something behind your back. But with that card, I always wonder, like, maybe those swords need to be stolen because what were they going to do with all them swords, right? And so maybe by stealing the swords, you could be like saving somebody's life or stopping a fight or a war or something. And you're a weirdo in the sense that you're going against the norms and other people, you're like against what the group wants to do. But it's probably for the best of everyone that you're doing that thing, even if it is sort of outside of the normal expected behaviors. All right. So Ari, you are next. If you haven't already posted a question, please post one. And I'll sort of scroll up and see if I can find a question. So feel free to post one. Yeah, you're going to post right now. Cool, cool. Keep being weird, Hermit's Lantern. I'll be weird with you. And so if there's anybody who's just joining, my name is Will. I'm doing some free tarot readings today. My channel is fairly new. It's just a few months old. And so if you'd like to help me grow it, please consider subscribing. I have pick a card videos. I have deck reviews and unboxings. I'm starting to do a little bit more educational content for people who are learning tarot. But recently I've been really focusing on live streams because at the end of the day, what I like is reading the cards, and this gives me an outlet to do that. You know, I've read on social media, but I like doing it in real time so that, like, at least in the chat, I can, you know, you can help me verify stuff or I can ask you questions. And I feel like the readings are just richer and more accurate and more interesting. All right. Ari wants to know, what are the chances of him changing his mind in the future and possibly how long it would take for him to decide to commit? His name is Zachary and he's a Virgo. So sounds like we've got a relationship question. Have you two ever dated? Is this like you have dated and then you've broken up? Or is it that he's never committed? You're fine with the guy not committing right away, but you do want a committed relationship at some point. That's fair. He was hurt by someone else in the past, sounds like. So we're going to ask, does this person have, Zachary, does Zachary have plans to make a commitment, a relationship commitment? Meaning, like, let's define it as a monogamous relationship with the intention of it being long-term. And let's put a timer on it of 3 months and see what we get. You're welcome, Hermit's Lantern. Thanks for saying hello today. I enjoyed reading for you. So what we'll do, Ari, is we'll do 3 months and see what we get. And then maybe 5 months. Okay, let's do 5 months. And then let's see. This is June. So June, July, August, September. Why don't we just do end of the... let's do June, July, August, September, October, November. Well, you said 5 months. And so let's go with what you said. Let's say 5 months. Or maybe by the end of the year. So we'll pull 3 cards, and we're asking if this person will be ready to make a commitment, a long-term commitment to Ari by no later than the end of the year. Okay. And again, because I don't think I've said it today, and so I should. Anytime we're reading for the future, I think of it more like a forecast and less like a prediction, right? Forecast in the sense that it can change. It can change because everyone has free will. They're like, you could change, he could change. Circumstances that nobody even knows about yet could change. So it's not written in stone. This is like assuming nothing does change, what would happen with the provision that something will change, right? And so the outcome could end up being different, of course, than what we see here. So judgment, that's about waking up, being reborn, having a revelation, hearing something that maybe hasn't been heard before. That's positive. It's like realizing something. But the Hermit, still searching for something. There's the Hermit's Lantern. And with the Hermit, you know, hermits live alone. So what's the last card? Ooh, 10 of Swords. That can be overthinking, but it can also be the end of something. Can mean something that hurts, right? Like a wound that's a pain that's developed, but that's sort of reached a peak, meaning then it's ready to start healing, but that hasn't necessarily happened yet. So yeah, 2 majors and then the 10 of Swords. So when we ask the question, we're asking from his perspective. Let me just think for a moment, because there are a couple of ways to read this. I would read him as the Hermit, I think. I think I would read him as the Hermit. And so in that sense, it's like maybe he's overthinking things. If he's afraid to commit, or maybe afraid's the wrong word, if he's reluctant to commit, it could be because of everything that's going on in his mind. But he's searching for something and using his little lantern to light the way forward, and walking towards a position, towards a place where he will be able to have a realization, right? So usually I read from left to right, unless the images on the cards suggest something different to me. And the Hermit is calling out to me as him. And they're facing to the left. And so I'd sort of read from right to left. He's got too many thoughts, too many ideas. Maybe he's been hurt in the past. And so he's wandering around the earth looking for the thing that will finally make him happy, right? Looking and looking and looking, and is about to have a realization, a revelation about what that thing is, like about to hear it. If you think about the angel has this big trumpet or horn, like hearing the sound of it. And so I'm, that reading the cards that way, I would think the revelation could be that making a commitment to you is the thing that will make him happy. But I want to pull some more cards because I'm not totally, it's not 100% clear to me. Sometimes the cards are ambiguous, sometimes they're straightforward and blunt, and today it's a little ambiguous for this reading. So let me look at the chat because I see a bunch of things here. Let's see. Okay, there's lots of guys you're talking to. I just find him really attractive. He's more my type. Got it. 2 majors. For reversals, it totally depends on the context. And I will tell you that for the readings I'm doing on this channel, all my cards are upright, but I read the full range of meanings, the upright and the reverse meanings, depending on the surrounding cards. That's the way that I do it. So it depends on the surrounding cards. But I would think if the card were reversed, you could think that you're denying that what is happening. So like the 10 of swords upright could mean the pain is awful, but now it's ended and it's ready to heal. Whereas reversed, it could mean you're not letting it end, which means it's never going to heal. And so that other reader you spoke to might be thinking of it sort of in that sense. Like you have to accept how hurt you are before you can start healing. And if it's reversed, it means you're not even accepting that there's been the pain, right? Yes, the Hermit is the Virgo card. That is 100% true, which I know is weird because Virgo's like the Virgin or the Maiden, and then the Hermit is like this old guy with a beard. But they're sort of alone, right? Solitary, and the correspondence in the major systems like the Golden Dawn would put the Virgo as the Hermit. Yeah. Yeah, so okay, let's pull a few more cards here because let's see. The first question was, is he going to make a commitment by the end of the year? And it looks like he's overthinking things. Maybe he's hurt, but he's searching for something and is about to have a revelation. So let me ask the follow-up question, and we'll pull 3 cards, is what specifically is that revelation? The Judgment card here is showing he's going to hear something, realize something he hasn't heard before. What is that? 9 coins. 4 swords. 7 swords. So there's a lot of swords. Swords. So, all of these cards including the Hermit, make me think of someone who is single. The only one that gives me any sense of people being together is Judgment. And so with the 9 of coins, I think of the way this coin in the middle is sort of different from the others. It's a little bit like separate, maybe ostracized, but it's like on its own, right? With the 4 of swords, the flower in the center is kept away from all of the other flowers, right? Maybe withdrawing, maybe it's resting, but separate from the others because of the swords, because of restrictions or boundaries that they've drawn upon themselves. And with the Seven of Swords, again, it's like this sword in the middle stands out as being separate from the rest. So with this card, I think of sharpness, I think of focus, I think of sometimes being a weirdo, but it's mostly about doing something on your own. It can be about strategizing, planning, figuring out how to get what you want sort of by acting behind the scenes. So yeah, I also wish we had some cups and wands. That would be great. I would love to see that. So, it's probably not what you super would want to hear, but I'm thinking more along the lines of a big drastic change where Zachary decides to make a long-term, real, lasting commitment is probably not coming up we said by the end of the year, right? So like I would not hold out for that as, like don't make big sacrifices because you hope that that's going to happen, because again, it can all change. Everybody can make decisions that would totally alter this, but there's no Two of Cups, there's no Ten of Cups, there's no cups at all. There aren't two court cards staring longingly into one another's eyes. It's a bunch of swords and some coins. It's possible that he comes to a realization that he needs something more permanent in his life, but doesn't do anything about it, right? Just because people realize something in their mind doesn't necessarily mean that they change their behavior, right? And so Ari says, either he's the type where I would have to be really patient with, or he has no plans to commit at all, and I would have to move on. Yeah. And I think 4 to 5 months should be enough time for somebody to make a decision on whether or not they want to commit. Me too. And yes, he needs to listen to his heart instead of head. It's all swords, which are thoughts, which are head, right? And when it's not that, it's earth, hermit, and coins is earth. And then judgment, some people read this as fire and some people read it as water. So it's kind of both, because there is water back here, but then I think of all of the fire. To me, this is like fire coming out of the sky. And so there's not like a lot of paying attention to feelings and emotions. I would imagine this is someone who is not emotionally available. This is someone who's in their head a lot. They're also probably fairly practical, I would think, with the earth cards coming up, like focused on work and money and ordinary kind of stuff like that. But this isn't someone who's necessarily big and deep and looking for, at least not right now, like that deep emotional commitment that many people do seek in a partner, right? Why don't I pull quickly? Let me just do a little mini. For questions like this, there's one spread I like to use sometimes just to describe the other person. And so we're not talking about the future anymore, but this would just be, tell us more about this person. And so the first card is their core personality, like what their goal in life is, their quest in life is, at least what they believe it is. What they do is different, but like this is what they think. The second card is what they don't know, what they don't understand about themselves, the part of their personality that is sort of unconscious. And then the third card will be how other people see them, right? So here for Zachary, we've got the Page of Coins. This is how he sees himself, right? So someone who's studious, exploring, maybe hardworking, studious, but still like at the beginning, right? Like they're a page as opposed to like a king, for example. So like they've got one coin, but they're trying to get a second coin, like trying to establish themselves, trying to get more, have more achievement in life. But there's someone who wants security, they want stability, at least consciously. That's what they think of themselves, right? They want security, stability, they want belonging, they want to be recognized by other people. So what they don't see is the Six of Swords. Here's another swords. They don't see that they have emotional baggage. They don't, like, it's not like, oh, I know I have emotional baggage and that holds me back. He doesn't know he has any emotional baggage, right? Which means he's not even probably trying to deal with it because he doesn't know that it's there, right? He needs to adapt more, change more, and he doesn't even know that, right? That's what I would think with this. Other people see him as a 10 of Cups, as a leader, perhaps. In this context, this card can mean a leader. There's some cups for us finally. So with the 10 of Cups, other people see him as like someone who would be great in a long-term relationship, but that's how other people see him. It's not how he sees himself, right? And so that's maybe where some of the conflict is coming, is he has some adapting, some growing, some emotional baggage that he's not dealing with. And I think that's sticking him in the page category, and he's having trouble getting out of that because he doesn't recognize that about himself, even though other people look at him and are like, oh, you'd be a great like long-term partner and husband or whatever it is, right? But he's like, no, I'm a page of coins, right? Yeah, we finally got a Cups card, and it's showing up as like the part of him that other people see, but not what he thinks of himself, right? But there it is, right? So that really jives, I think, with everything else we saw in the reading, that, sword, a lot of swords here. And he doesn't see any cups for himself, but other people see them for him, right? All right, so let's see. Who do we have next on the list? Drift King, if you are here, you would be the next person. Ari says, I do wish I was the girl that subconsciously makes guys think, oh my God, I need to commit her and change my ways. I think a lot of people think that, right? That, yes, I think you are not alone in feeling that. So, all of this can change, but he doesn't see himself, I think, as someone who is ready for a long-term relationship right now. And he has growing up to do. He's got some emotional baggage. He needs to adapt more. And until he's able to recognize that, he's going to see himself as this kind of page of coins figure. That's how I would read it. You're very welcome. Yeah, this was a fun one to read. They're all fun, but that was a fun one. So Drift King, are you here? Yay. Hi, Drift King. It's your turn. If you'd like to post a question, I can give you a reading. Yeah, Ari, it's true. A lot of them, not all. The Virgos. Virgos tend to be non-committal when they're younger. Yeah, anecdotally, I can think of someone I know who's a Virgo who was not into committing at all, and now is a very happy partner and parent, and I think that their relationship is going to last forever. And it's an earth sign, Virgos, And so there is that stability and that structure sort of built into it. But I guess the other thing maybe to consider would be like, what's their moon sign, for example, like what is the part of them? Because I feel like moon signs tend to sort of be more dominant earlier in life, in the sense that the sun sign is more like what you're working towards and building. And so early in life, you maybe haven't done that yet. And so the moon sign is more dominant. But then later in life, when the Virgo sort of comes out more, the sun sign, then that earth energy of, stability and structure and commitment comes through more. Okay, so Drift King wants to know, will I make it in the music industry this year? All right, so we've got, this is June, so we're saying till the end of the year. And let's define make it in the music industry. Can we say like make some significant progress in the music industry between now and the end of 2025? Cool. All right. Some significant progress in the music industry. Let's see what we get. So I'll pull 3 cards for that, and we'll see. For most readings, I pull 3 cards, and if we have a really clear answer, then we're good with 3 cards. And if it's ambiguous, we can pull more cards to see what we get. I think, Ari, what you're saying about the Taurus guy, if you're an Aries, you're probably more direct than a Taurus. Well, than a lot of signs, right? I think Aries are pretty direct people. And earth and water signs can sometimes be a little more reluctant, not all of them, more reluctant to say things that might cause conflict, right? Okay, will Drift King make it or make some significant noticeable progress in the music industry before the end of this year, 2025? We'll lay out 3 cards. And if anyone is just joining us, my name is Will. I'm live streaming some free tarot readings today. My channel's fairly new. If you're interested in helping me grow it, please consider subscribing. I would appreciate it if you like my content. No pressure. Okay, Drift King, let's see what we've got. 6 wands. That's a very good sign. That's victory. That's working with others, maybe other people following you. But 10 swords, that is less positive. This can mean overthinking a very, very complex situation. It can mean sort of deception or getting stabbed in the back. 10 swords could be something uncomfortable or that hurts, but they turn into 10 wands. What an interesting little spread. So, all right. So I would read this from left to right as you do make some kind of progress, some noticeable progress where other people are recognizing whatever it is that you're doing, and they're following you. They're publicly acknowledging something good that you have done, right? Publicly, which probably means online, but whatever the context might be, like if you're playing like a live local show, right? Then that would mean people showing up at that local show and enjoying it, right? And like wanting to see more of it, right? But there's a setback of some kind with the Ten of Swords, right? Like something falls through. Someone said it would be one way and it's something else. And so you feel like deceived or stabbed in the back a little bit. Or like anxiety when I think of, you said the music industry. So I'm thinking you're a performer, right? And so I'm thinking about a lot of performers experience like anxiety. And so it could be overthinking things or anxiety, just like getting too much and that making the situation really complicated, right? But the anxiety turns into 10 wands. And so there's two things I can think of here. And I would sort of wonder if your musical career is totally solo or whether you're working with another person. Because if you're working with another person, then I would think that your ability to work together, your loyalty and devotion for one another would help you to carry the burden of the complicated situation very well. And so I would think here of the way that these two wands in the middle are carrying the burden of all of the other wands. But if you're alone, like if this is a solo project, then I would think you might feel overwhelmed and almost like burning out because you're like trying to carry everything just by yourself. So there's a whole lot of reason for optimism that some good progress will be made. I think the most optimistic card here would be that Six of Wands, because this is about victory and public recognition. But I think it will get complicated with the Ten of Swords, and then trying to figure out how to resolve that complication in a satisfactory way so that you're not burning out or feeling overburdened or exhausted. Because this card, the Ten of Swords, can also mean exhausted, right? And so if there's like any way you could be asking someone else for help in some way, whether it's in the actual music itself or promoting it or something like that, that would be one thing that comes to mind for you to consider. So what do you think of that, Drift King? What does that tell you? Or I guess I could ask, does that resonate? Does it seem like plausible? Aha, so you do work with someone, Annabelle. You and Annabelle will work together in the music. Okay, great. So in that case, I would add sort of two things. One is this Six of Wands can mean collaboration in addition to victory and other people sort of following you. It's like you're carrying three wands and Annabelle is carrying three wands. And so the working together is going to be super important to this. And there is, I think, going to still be this complication, right? Maybe one or both of you are overthinking, or there's anxiety or nervousness, or something falls through. This is about like I always think of like this shape as like a wound, like a metaphorical, not an actual wound. That would be pretty rare, right? But like a wound that's been opened and the swords are sort of sticking in it. And the good thing with the 10 is whatever the issue is, while it's complicated and bad, like there's no 11, right? So things can only go up from there. And seeing then this card next suggests, as long as you're able to continue to be loyal to one another and like partners in this musical endeavor, that you're likely to make a lot of progress, right? 6 to 10 would suggest progress, even though there's this obstacle you'll have to get over, right? So overall, I'd say like the short and quick answer to the question would be yes. I do think that you will see some kind of significant progress in your music career by the end of the year. So I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic and keep going. I will also say two things we don't see are coins, right? So if you're talking about, am I going to have an income from it? I would say I think it's more about recognition, right? I don't see any coins here. And I don't see cups, which would mean feeling like happy and fulfilled as opposed to, gosh, there's a lot more work to do. There's a lot more work to do. That's the wands. The wands are about work, energy, burning stuff, getting stuff going, right? You're passionate about it and you probably enjoy it, but that doesn't mean it's easy and it doesn't mean it doesn't work, right? The cups would be more like, cool, we did it. Now we can sit back and have a drink, right? And so I think it's more about the putting the time and the effort in, and getting some recognition for it, but it may not be paying off financially yet. Or you sort of you won't be able to rest on your laurels and sip from your cup, so to speak, right? Okay, so the next on my list would be Chelsea, and I see you've got your question there, which is great. So I will read for you, and you're very welcome, Drift King. I wish you all the best possible luck. I think that one of the key things here to remember is the importance of your partnership, your professional relationship with the other person that you're making music with. I think that is going to be the key to success. You're welcome. So Chelsea wants to know, am I going to get the job offer from Go Ape? Cool. So for that question, we'll do a 3-card reading, and I'll use my trusty Tarot de Marseille and pull 3 cards. And I realize I haven't checked the chat in a minute, so let me shuffle this and let me just check the chat and add some folks to the list. And I think what I'm going to do, since I'm approaching the 2-hour mark, I'm going to add whoever has already requested to be added. And then I think I'm going to pause adding anyone. So Mary Jana. And Nelia or Nelia. Okay. So just so we're all on the same page, I've got Chelsea, Benita, Miss Ashley, Mary Jana, Nelia. And then if anybody else has already asked in the appropriate way to be added to the list, and I missed you, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to put a pause on adding any more, because that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that would put me at 11 readings, which is usually about as many as I can do before I'm kind of worn out. So, Chelsea, you have applied for a job, and you want to know if you're going to be given a job offer from them. So that should be a easy enough question to get a response to. I'll pull 3 cards. And as I have said before, but like to repeat, this is a forecast rather than a prediction, meaning, of course, it can change. There are variables that, for like everything, that are up in the air, so to speak. And so we will see what the cards say. We'll pull 3 of them. And so I would assume then you've already like submitted an application and maybe even had an interview. And now you're wondering if you're going to get a call back or just an offer, right? Because I guess every place does it different, but usually it's like you submit an application and then there's a first round interview and usually a second round, depends on the job, right? And sometimes I've even heard of crazy things where there's like third and fourth and fifth round interviews and all of that kind of nonsense before submitting an offer. But all right, so it sounds like you've had an interview and you're wondering if they're going to offer you something. All right, let's see what we get. All right. Will Chelsea get a job offer? Ooh, 10 cups again. This card's been stalking us today. So 10 cups, that is happy. That is long-term happiness. Usually. It can also mean too many emotions, depending on other things. King of Batons. 5. So King of Batons would be like a hiring manager, I would think, right? This is like the boss guy, right? The entrepreneur, the manager, he's the guy in charge. He sits up on the throne, or she sits up on the throne, and they are in charge of it. And so, I'm going to say, based on the cards I see, I'm going to give a tentative yes that you're going to hear something good. I would read this as you've got all of these emotions, lots and lots and lots of feelings about this job, right? Like you really want it. You wouldn't be asking the question otherwise. So, and you're hoping for a long-term like position, right? Like a permanent long-term position that's going to last. And I would also think of like each of these cups might be an applicant for the job, right? Like 10 people have applied, probably is more than that, depending on the job, but a bunch of people have applied for the job. And the boss has come along and they've thought about all of those people, right? And like they've narrowed it down to half. We've got 5 now instead of the 10. And so like one thought here would be second interview. If you haven't already had a second interview, I would think they've narrowed it down, but you are still in the running because whenever we see cups, we think of happy things, we think of nourishment, we think of everything that makes us fulfilled and happy and all of that. And so I think a first interview, cut these people down, and now a second interview maybe. And one of them sort of stands out there in the center, right? Like someone is getting chosen. They've got these little pretty flowers around them. And so let's just pull 3 more because I don't think this is a definitive yes or no to the question. I think it's very promising, right? But let's see. Yeah, waiting on a second interview. That's exactly how I would read this. That like you would probably get called back for a second interview. But let's see. Let's assume that you get a second interview. What might come from that? If that's what happens, what would come from that? Okay, a Knight of Cups. Judgment. So Knight of Cups I would read as this is your dream, right? Like you're almost fantasizing about it and thinking about it. I have been in a similar position where there's like a job I really, really, really want, and I'm laying in bed at night trying to fall asleep, and all I can think about is what it would be like if I had that job. That's the feeling I imagine here. And then judgment, there's a revelation. All these people want the job. Five swords. Well, swords are not cups. And so I would sort of be inclined to think with five swords feeling hurt, right? And so like I'm having trouble framing this, like finding the right words to say this. But I guess what I sort of read here is feeling hurt. And so that makes me think of not getting it. But I'd want to emphasize that it is not written in stone. And so things can still change. This 5 to, so we've got our 10 cups, which is dreaming of long-term happiness. I would say the dreaming too, because it's above the Knight of Cups. And here's our boss manager, right? Narrowing down the options. And that is a really good sign, because that would say they see something in you that is big, right? Like you are well on your way there. If you're getting an interview at all, that's a really, really good sign. If you're getting a second interview too, that's a huge good sign. I feel like for a lot of jobs, if you're getting to the second interview stage, it could just be totally random after that point, right? Like, if they're down to like 3 or 4 candidates, then they're splitting hairs, right? Like I've even heard of people who, like I remember hearing from a friend once, like somebody had put that they play golf as a hobby on their resume, and all the candidates for the job were like equally as good, but the hiring manager also played golf, and so they picked the one who plays golf, right? And so that kind of thing, like, does that make them better? No, it just means that they happen to have an interest that was similar to the hiring manager's interest, right? Doesn't mean that they're even more qualified for the position. So so I would go into it, continue to be optimistic, continue to be positive about it. Remember that the fact that you're getting interest in them at all and getting an interview at all is like huge for you, and would be for anyone. I mean, that's a really big deal. And so, but also I would temper your expectations and remember, just because it doesn't happen this time, if it doesn't happen this time, doesn't mean it won't ever happen, or that some other opportunity may not come up that could even be better. And now I'm moving away from the cards, but I'll tell you just a story from my own life, which is years ago, I was up for a job interview, and I really, really, really wanted that job. And it meant I would be moving out of state, and I would be near a friend who I never got to see anymore. And I flew out for the interview, and I did the interview, and I was so excited, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I never heard from them. And I got really disappointed and sad, and I never got the job. And years later, I ended up getting a job that is way better. And had I gotten the first job, I never would have been able to apply for the second job. And I had to wait those years before the second job happened. But in retrospect, I am so glad I didn't get that first job, even though I was really bummed about it in the moment. And so, that's not the cards. That's just me. But be positive, be optimistic, recognize that they recognize something in you because they're interviewing you and calling you back and all of this. But if it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean it's like the end of the road or that something better couldn't even come along in the future. Okay. So on my list, I have Benita Bala would be next. And I am going to take, you're very welcome, Chelsea. I wish you absolutely the best with the interview. And, especially in a situation here where like other people are interviewing, like someone else could bomb their interview, which totally changes the outcome of the cards. So remember, it's not a prediction, right? It's just a forecast and the weather can change, so to speak. So, Benita, if you were here, you would be next on my list. I am going to pause the feed for just a moment. I need to step away very, very briefly. So if you all just give me a quick second, I will be back. And Benita, you would be next. And let me know in the chat if you're here. And if you are not, then Miss Ashley would be next. Okay, I'm back. Thanks for bearing with me. If anyone new is joining us, my name is Will. I'm doing some free tarot readings. And let's see, I've got Benita. I don't see Benita acknowledging that they're here. And then after Benita, Miss Ashley. If Miss Ashley is here, Mari Jana would be next. If Mari Jana is here. And Red Thread 39, I don't see you on my list. And I have closed the list. So to get on the list, I ask that folks put in all caps, please add me to the list one time in the chat. You can find in the pinned chat message or in the description of the video info about that. But if I don't get to read for you today, I'd be happy to do it in future. And if you subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to see when I've scheduled future live streams. And if Mary Jane is not here, then Nelia would be next. Mari Jana. Okay, so if you'd like to post your question, I can do a reading for you. Will money be good this month? Okay. So we'll do a 3-card spread for that. Pull 3 cards about money in the upcoming month. And if we get a fairly straightforward answer, then 3 cards might be enough. If we don't, then we can pull more cards. You can always pull more cards. And so, as I've said with other readings today, it's a forecast and not a prediction, so things can change. It's not written in stone. You can still influence the situation, and other people and events can also still influence the situation. All right, and so for Mary Jane, we're mostly hoping to see coins cards. Cups might be okay too, although cups would be more like, even though money isn't necessarily good, things are still happy, right? But let's see if we see coins for Mari Jana coming up in the next month. June, we're talking about. It's 1st of June, so we're going June. All right, 3 cards. Queen of Batons. So my first inclination is to think that represents you. And I think of the Queen of Batons as someone who's probably working a lot. I often think of batons as career, right? So someone who's focused on their career, who's like building something, trying to create something. Can also mean someone who's like a performer or artistic. But in the context of your question, I would think here you are like working on your career, working to make money. And 5, I would think here of overcoming a stalemate. Like, it's not coins, but I'm thinking about like if you've been working, maybe there's been a lull or a plateau or an obstacle, and here you're like getting more competitive, or you are, maybe there's some conflict that isn't necessarily bad, right? But is maybe getting you through a plateau or like a boring work kind of situation where maybe things aren't moving as much as they should be. And the last card, we have the Hanged One. So this card is about hanging upside down, thinking that you're just hanging out, you're hanging around, things aren't going, there's not a lot of movement with this card. It can be about seeing things from a new perspective, right? If you think about seeing the world upside down because you're upside down, and so everything looks different, and that can be really good for all of us sometimes, I think. But to answer your actual question, we don't see coins, right? And so um, there's not like a bunch of money just suddenly falling down into the from the heavens, or like a check that you didn't know was coming, and then there's the check. And I also think, like, I'm getting this image of when you're hanging upside down, everything might fall out of your pockets, right? We don't actually see that, but it's just an image that I think of with this. And so my first response to your question would be, I don't see like a big change in like a big positive change in income where you're like have a bunch more money than you thought you were going to have. Uh, Now that said, I also don't see, like, for example, the two of coins would be one of the coins cards where it's like you're juggling money, like there's not enough to go around, and so you're like paying off this credit card so that you can pay off the other one, or like paying back this person in order to get more money to pay off the other one, or something like that. So we don't see that. We also don't see the five of coins, which can often mean a great loss of money. And so that's good. This seems to be more like working, making progress in your career or your job, but maybe having to give up some stuff, like some expenses that you decide you're going to have to do without, or sort of feeling like you're hanging around, as opposed to like, the 10 of coins, I think would mean like, ooh, a bunch of money dropped in that we didn't know we were going to have, or like the queen of coins appearing here or anywhere instead of the queen of wands. The queen of coins is more like having money and investing it, and the queen of wands is more like working with what she's got a little bit more, as opposed to having the coins yet. Or like the king of coins would be another one. So I wouldn't say, first of all, there's nothing super bad here, right? We don't see the tower, right? It's not like your house is going to fall down tomorrow, right? Metaphorically or actually. So that is not something to be worrying about. We don't see death. We don't see the devil. We don't see the 10 of swords that can be rough sometimes. But we also don't see any coins, right? So it's more about working, I think. And, with this card, I would think about, with the Hanged One, I think about sacrifice. I think about renunciation, like giving something up, right? And so one maybe way of trying to spin a more positive financial aspect on this card would be to think, could you figure out something that you're spending money on that maybe you could give up, that you don't need? And maybe the answer is no, right? Totally up to you. But maybe that could help if you can think of something like that. And maybe you can, and maybe you can't, right? Totally specific to your own experience and context and situation. Okay, so I wish I could say that there'll be money coming in from an unexpected source. And again, it's a forecast and not a prediction, so things can change and circumstances could change. It could be different, but based right now on those three, I would say probably not. So, are Benita, Bala, Miss Ashley, or Nelia here? Hey, Red Thread. So I've said a couple times, I don't know if you're like coming in and out, but so to get on the list, you're not on the list. To get on the list, check the description of the video or oh, hi, Nelia. So you'll be next. Or the pinned chat message. And right now, I don't have the list open because I'm winding down. If I can't read for you today, though, consider subscribing because you'll be able to see when I'll be live in the future. So I do it first come, first serve based on the folks who type in the chat. Please add me to the chat in all caps one time. If you did that and I missed you, let me know. That's possible since I'm doing it on my own and I'm checking the cards and I'm checking the chat. Okay, the red thread says they did post in all caps. Please add me to the list. So I must have missed it. Let me see if I can find it. I I don't see it in all caps. Please add me to the list. If other folks see it and I'm like blind, let me know. But I'm sorry, I don't see that. I'm not seeing it. So Nelia, if you'd like to post your question in the chat, please do that, and I can do a reading for you. Hi, SK. Welcome. I'm just winding down my live stream today, so I'm not currently adding new folks to my list just because I'm reaching the end. But I'd love to read for you in the future. And you said you subscribe, so that's great. You'll be able to see when I've got live streams scheduled. I try to schedule them a day in advance, although sometimes I go on just kind of as a surprise if I feel like doing it. Okay, so Nelia wants to know, will I meet my true love this year? Where, when, etc. Okay, will I meet my true love this year? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll pull 3 cards for that question. Will you meet this person this year, meaning between now and let's just go till the end of the calendar year, so like the end of December, so that's like 7 months. And then if we get a clear yes, we can pull more questions. And so true love, we're talking not a fling, not a short-term relationship. We're talking about like a soulmate kind of thing. That's the impression that I'm getting, like someone who would be a long-term relationship with like a deep emotional connection and not just a fun person who maybe you could learn something from, but who isn't your long-term person. All right, so let's pull 3 cards Cornelia. Will they meet their true love by the end of this calendar year? Ooh, that is hopeful. 10 cups. I mean, that means long-term commitment, potentially 6 cups, and the Page of Cups. So, before I flip the cards, I was ready to tell you no, because it's unlikely, right? It's like, is it going to happen in the next 6 months? And my logical mind is like, no, but then I see something like this, and I think there's actually a good chance of it. And so, 10 cups, this is long-term happy relationship. 6 cups, this is sometimes nostalgia or memories from the past. Like, it's making me think it could be somebody you already know. It can also mean, if you think of the 6 cups as forming like a pathway, right? Like lining a pathway, you can think of like taking steps, walking forward on the cups. I think of it as like the path to happiness, that kind of thing. And then Page of Cups, I would think of as this being the person that you're taking steps towards meeting. And so let's talk about who this person is. This would be someone who is very sensitive, like emotionally sensitive. They're probably young or immature in some way, not necessarily in a bad way, but this is someone who has still like something to learn in life, right? Like, they're not totally grown up, and they still have some things to figure out. They might be kind of hesitant, maybe kind of introverted, maybe dependent on someone else, like their parents, for example, depending on how old they are, something like that. Someone who sort of is like, could be a student, still learning, someone who's not totally established yet in the world. And, but someone who's very sensitive, and who their good side is that they are open to emotions, right? Their potential downside is that can overwhelm them, right? Because they're sort of still kind of young and untested and hesitant and even a little immature. They may not know yet how to control or manage their emotions yet in the way that another court card might be able to. And so that can make them oversensitive sometimes. So it'd be someone that you need to be careful about, like, if you say the wrong thing and you didn't mean it in a bad way, but they might be oversensitive, and so they take it to heart really strongly, and they feel very hurt, even though you didn't expect or try or intend to hurt them. Like, that wasn't at all what you were trying to do, but they could be oversensitive sometimes. They can also be very empathic, although again, they don't know how to control it yet. So meaning they can feel other people's emotions very strongly. And so, like, if they walk into a room where people have just been arguing, they might suddenly feel really upset, and they don't even know why, right? But just like the sort of mood of the room is arguing, and so they take that onto themselves, and it's almost like they've been arguing even when they haven't, and they haven't figured out how to regulate that yet. And so they just like, that can be something that they're trying to work through, right? So the short answer is, yeah, I think that this person is very much sort of on your path, so to speak. And I do think they have a lot of potential to be a long-term partner, right? But they're right, they're a page of cups as opposed to, say, like a king of cups, where with a king of cups, I would think of someone who's very established. They know how to express their emotions outwardly. They are very good at being diplomatic and offering advice, and they're just more mature, right? This person's not mature yet. And so it would be the kind of thing I think where you would need to sort of stick with them during their maturing phase before you would get to this 10 of cups moment. But I think the potential for it is there given that that card shows up in the reading. So let me know what you think of that. And while you do that, let me look at the chat. Hi, folks. My name is Will. For those of you who are new, I've been doing some free tarot readings for the last 2.5 hours, and I'm winding down today. My energy is flagging a lot, and I'm finding it harder to maintain my train of thought and everything just because I've been going for a while. So I'm winding down, and I don't have the list open right at the moment. I've closed it because I need to wind down. But if I'm not able to read for you today, I would be very happy to read for you in the future. And if you would like to subscribe, you'll be able to see when I've scheduled future live streams. But I am winding it down today just for my own well-being. So Nelia says yes. And if Benita Bala or Miss Ashley are here, you are the last two that I have on my list. And yeah, Red Thread, well, let's see. You said that you asked in the chat. I didn't see it, but if Benita and Miss Ashley aren't here, I will go ahead and do a 3-card reading for you since you've been waiting patiently. So why don't you go ahead and post your question in the chat? And I think Miss Ashley and Benita are not here. So Red Thread, if you put your question down, I will end with you today. And I'm just going to shuffle off camera because it's faster. All right, so we're doing a love reading for Red Thread. The question is, will I have a love relationship this year? How would be the relationship with the person? Hi, Andrea. My name's Will. I've been doing readings. I am right at the end of the live stream, and so the current reading I'm doing is going to be my last one for today, but I would be very happy to read for you in the future. If you would care to subscribe to my channel, you can see when I will be live streaming. I try to schedule them a day in advance, at least, although sometimes I can just hop on without scheduling in advance. But like most of the time, I have one scheduled in advance so folks can plan for it and know when I'm coming. So let's see, for Red Thread, we're going between now and let's just say the end of the calendar year. So like the end of December, will Red Thread have a love relationship? And if so, what would it be like? And so we'll pull 3 cards for that. And it's a very similar question to the one I just did for Nelia. And so we'd like to see similar cards. You know, if that 10 of Cups came up again, or 2 of Cups would be good to see, or 2 court cards looking at each other, or 2 human figures at all looking at each other could potentially mean a new relationship starting. But let's see what we get for Red Thread's love life between now and the end of the calendar year of 2025. All right, what do we have? Knight of Coins, King of Cups, and the Fool. What an interesting little spread. No pips at all. We've got courts and a major. So, you should know that I read without recourse to gender when I'm reading the court cards or any of the cards with human figures on them, right? So, like a knight could be a person of any gender, man or woman. Even a king could be a man or woman. It's more about their personality and less about their gender, right? But what I see here are 3 people, and I would kind of think that this is like a couple, right? And then over here, we've got something that they're doing together, like foolishly walking off together, that kind of thing. Maybe together, you know, this is one person. So, you know, like I might read the Knight of Coins as you. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And then the King of Cups as a potential love interest. And so in that sense, you would be looking at this person with a desire to sort of invest yourself in them, right? Like wanting to date this person. But they're not necessarily looking back at you, right? They're looking over here. Maybe it's somebody else who's a fool and who's like foolishly walking away from them. And so I'm almost getting a sense of like, there will be someone who you're interested in, who enters into your environment, your life, and you want to invest yourself metaphorically in this person, spend time with them, devote energy to them, right? Maybe spend some money. But that person has this deep feeling. Think of the King of Cups as someone with a deep cup of emotion, right? And they're not looking at you so much as they're looking at this fool. Like maybe it's their ex or someone else they're dating or someone else they're interested in. And so there's like a 3-person kind of situation where you're looking at them, but they're looking at this other kind of person, right? So let's pull 3 more cards because I'm curious. I want to know what's going to happen to these people. And let me know in the chat if for any reason you would identify more with the King of Cups. You know, because I don't know anything about you, but like if when you look at this, you're like, oh no, I'm not the Knight of Coins, I'm the King of Cups, then let me know, because that would change a little bit how I would see this. But so what I want to know is how would this situation develop if what we're seeing is you meet someone you're interested in, but they are interested in someone else? Where would that go? And I'll just say there's another question in the chat from Joao Pedro Costa Calasa. I have the list closed right now just because I'm winding down today's live stream. But if you would care to subscribe, you can see when I'll be live streaming in the future. And I would love to do a reading for you in the future. So, what would come of this sort of? It's not really a love triangle so much as it's a love conga line or something like that. The Hanged One, the Star, and 5 Cups. So, Red Thread, when you say you like the king, do you mean you identify more with the king, or that you're the one who looks at and likes or is attracted to the king? Just because that nuance. These other 3, so with the Hanged Man, I think things aren't going anywhere. They hang upside down. They're not moving. They don't progress, right? It's like maybe you feel like you sacrifice yourself and you're just hanging upside down. You're hanging out, right? As opposed to having some growth or movement, some emotional progress, right? We might say it. With the Star, though, it's like, okay, good. Attracted to the king. Yes, that makes sense to me too. So with the Star, it makes me think that there's some optimism and hope. But with the 5 of Cups, I'm back to thinking disappointment. Right? The 5 of Cups is often about like, well, that didn't work, but that's okay. I can move on. I can figure out like what the next thing might be. So, it's not written in stone. It's a forecast and not a prediction, but it is kind of giving like there's too many people involved. I say that for 2 reasons. One, we've got all of these figures, right? Human figures. And then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's all 5 of them. If they're each represented by a cup, it's like all 5 of them are there. And so someone's going to get disappointed. It's like there's too many people involved. The room's too crowded, that kind of thing, right? Like if you're looking for a monogamous relationship where it's just 2 people involved, I think that king is looking at someone else and that other person is a fool. Right? And so you're kind of hanging around and the king is hopeful that that they might be able to get that fool. And so there's a sense of disappointment in the whole situation. I think maybe for everyone, right? Like, I think maybe for you, if the king is chasing the fool, but I think also for the king, because like each person is looking at the next and not necessarily seeing eye to eye with someone else. So obviously all of this can change. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but going forward in this situation, I would sort of be prepared that there could be a third party involved and that that could lead to feeling like it's not moving forward, like you're having to sacrifice things and you're not getting something back necessarily, and maybe a little bit of sort of disappointment. That's the word that always comes to mind, or often comes to mind, with the five of cups there. Because fives I think of as um, like a big change or a kind of obstacle, and and with cups that would be in a relationship or feelings, right? Emotions. So yeah, so I would just go into it like, if you are this represented by this Knight of Cups here, getting ready to metaphorically invest in the king, just be careful. I'm not saying don't do it, but like, just know that king might be looking at a fool, right? Looking at someone else who's a fool. So if you sort of invest your coin, you might not get your money back, if that metaphor makes sense. Okay, so for anyone who's still hanging around, my name is Will, and I've been doing some free tarot readings today. I'm winding down the live stream, but if I wasn't able to read for you, I would love to do it in the future. If you'd care to subscribe to the channel, you'll be able to see when I have future live streams scheduled. I'm planning probably to do one tomorrow, for example. But I am winding down today. It's about lunchtime, and I've been going for almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 46 minutes. And my energy's kind of waning. And so I'm going to sign off today. But I want to say thank you to everyone who let me read for them. I very much enjoyed it. Thanks for letting me into your life for a little slice of time. And if you enjoyed what you saw me do here today, please consider subscribing to help me grow the channel. That would benefit me and I would be grateful for it. But obviously, no pressure, right? Like, only subscribe if you genuinely like what I'm doing here. Red Thread, you are very welcome. Thanks for letting me read for you. And I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Have a great day, everyone. Be well, be safe, and I will see you next time. Bye.